We decided to try and bring the camera back to the UK to see if there was a film in there to develop. Lenin Peak is a 7,000 metre peak in Kyrgyzstan. It sits on the Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan border, and last year we were invited to go there to find out whether or not we could set up a medical group that would go out there and provide medical support for mountaineers climbing Lenin Peak. This is our team. See the tents that we're staying in behind, and the mountain. Literally, you can see how the rock finishes and the snow begins. So this is where the glacier starts. And the nature of a glacier, so a hard-packed mass of snow and ice, the glacier moves, and with that, the debris that's on the mountain. So over the last few years, what started to emerge at the snout of the glacier are a number of remains, and they all come from probably the biggest mountaineering disaster that has ever affected the high mountains. That is the very site of where the camera was found. Our local guide wanted to show us a site, and we weren't really sure why or what we were going to see, but he was keen that we went, and he took us up onto this very flattened area of snow and ice. And as your eyes got accustomed to what you were looking for, you could start to see little things that weren't in keeping with the glacier itself. So you can see there's a little tent pole there, and there's a tent, there's a red jacket there, and I think that gold area, that I think was the rucksack, and it was all wrapped together, it all swirled together and buried quite firmly into the ice. And it took a little bit of unpacking, but eventually the rucksack emerged, and in the lid, the top lid of the rucksack, was a camera. Yeah, it's really as I remembered it when we first picked it up. Yeah, it's great to see it again. This is a camera that's been well used and has been tied off at just such a perfect place. It's just been so personalised. Just with it's a bootlace, isn't it? It's just a simple bootlace. This has a story. It was witness to people's lives. And so we decided to try and bring the camera back to the UK to see if there was a film in there to develop.
When we get anything like this, we hold in a lot of reverence. I mean, with it being, 35 years ago, we've developed stuff from a lot older, but this being the condition it is, having the sort of emotional impact that it could carry, it's definitely a more unorthodox sort of order.
But I think photos are so important to us all. We look at them again hours, months, years later, and it reminds us of how we were. And it reminds us of the emotions that we had at the time that they were taken.
It's definitely Soviet in origin. Definitely doesn't work anymore. There's been so much water damage to it. Lenses cracked. Everything that could go wrong with the camera has gone wrong with this camera.
You can imagine that the weight of literally millions of kilos of ice will have caused most items to collapse down shut.
The film itself is slide film. It's a German-made film, but with it being slide film, it's very little leeway as to what sort of conditions you can shoot in. It was an interesting choice to take up there.
Maybe he did slideshows. Maybe he was getting ready to do a slideshow for when he came back. There's so many what ifs.
Sadly, it has been destroyed. You can see stressing in the sprocket holes over here. It's certainly not the oldest roll of film we've handled, but after a certain amount of time in these sorts of elements, they all start to look the same. All of these little black marks are gaps in the emulsion. So the film emulsion is what absorbs the light, what sort of embeds the image to the roll, and all these gaps in it is the emulsion sort of being ripped away. It's very likely it's gotten water damage and it's sort of peeled itself off, so it's gotten stuck to itself, which is really common for water damaged rolls.
Sadly, that camera didn't survive, and I suppose now we need to think, what should we do with the camera? Where should it go next? And we don't have anybody who has claimed the camera. It doesn't belong to anybody now, but it may be that perhaps that camera needs to go back. It needs to go back to the mountain, and it needs to be perhaps buried with the remains of the person whose camera it was, and complete that story, complete that journey.